How many times have you clicked on a video like this, trying to find a way to become more confident, but people just give you some very generic cookie cutter answer that doesn't feel helpful and it feels more like it's coming for you, telling you things like, well, just feel confident, just get out there and do it, or stop feeling the way you do. Telling you things that may sound helpful to them, but really don't help you at all. If anything, it might make you feel worse. Well, my goal with this video is to do none of that. And instead, I want to focus on confidence as a whole, trying to shift your perspective of how you think about this. And so that way you can use these tools in your life to help yourself moving forward. Now, before you get to the point where you sit there and say, well, it's easy for you to say, it seems like you're confident even from this few, seconds I've watched this video with. That's not true. I was a very unconfident person growing up. And in some ways in my life, I still feel that way. So I understand what you're going through. And if you stick around towards the end, I'm going to go ahead and throw in a personal story about me to tell you, kind of where I came from and where I am right now. So that way you can see that relatability firsthand for yourself. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so the first thing I would want to ask you is, what is it that you want to be confident in? And if your answer to that has anything to do with, I just want to be confident in general, or I feel unconfident, I want to be confident, I want you to pause there, because sometimes we think about this as being very black and white. You're either confident or you're not. But it's not like that. The truth lies more in the nuance in the middle. And the way I've always thought about this is that confidence is domain specific, meaning that more likely you're going to find people, including you, that are going to be confident with certain things in your life, but you're not going to be confident with everything in your life. And sometimes you can be the most confident person in the room with a certain thing, but be the most unconfident person with another thing. So let me give you some examples of this. Let's say you work as a car mechanic or something to that effect, some type of trade, and you're very good at what that trade is. You can understand this, you could fix this, you're the go-to person for that, right? But then if they were to take you and put you in a boardroom with other members and you were supposed to talk about budgets, future goals, and plan these things out with them, you'd be stuck and you'd think, I don't know what to do here. This isn't my thing. I'm not really confident in this setting and having to lead these people. Okay. Different confidence for different levels. Now take that same person that's in the boardroom leading others and put them in a nightclub on the dance floor. Maybe this person is in the boardroom and they're like the go-to person. They exude this certain level of confidence. You look at and you think, wow, this person really has it. And this is something different. But as soon as you put them on that dance floor, they're like, man, I don't know how to dance. I don't know how to stand here. What do I do with my hands? Like, I'm awkward, right? So you feel this level of unconfidence. And then you find someone maybe that's confident on the dance floor there. They've got that now. They don't mind walking up to people. They're very social and things too. And even a person you would think that would be good in a public domain like that, now you put them on stage in an auditorium in front of people where they're going to talk to 100 people or more and give a speech. This person might clam up and say, you know what, I'm comfortable in this social setting, but I'm not comfortable in front of people having to present and do this, right? And then you think about, okay, well, here's a person that's doing public speaking. This person has got to be confident because they're strong, they're brave, they're getting up in front of people, they're delivering a message, and they're doing something that I perceive to be difficult. Maybe this person seems confident in that way, but then what if they go home and they're not confident in their relationship and there's issues there and they struggle with things that maybe you do well. Maybe you have a strong relationship, but you struggle with the rest of these things. Confidence is domain specific because there's so many different facets and tasks and things in life that we can choose to work on, to get involved in, spend time on, and get better with, right? Like, I think there's this common misconception that some people are just born confident and you've got it and you either are confident or you're not. I don't believe that. I think it's the way you can view this is confidence is a skill that can be built on over time. And whether you realize it or not, you yourself are confident in certain things. But what we tend to do is we focus on what we don't have, not what we do. It doesn't matter if you do something simple, like let's say you go home and you watch, mystery shows all the time. You're on Netflix just watching mystery shows. You're on YouTube, you're watching mystery shows. It's like your thing, right? And you feel like you don't do anything else. You're not confident in anything. I bet you that if we were sitting next to each other and talk about mysteries or detective work and having to figure these things out, you could tell me a whole lot more about that than I would know. And there's nothing I can do to compete with you. It's because I haven't spent the time with that. So I don't have a certain level of confidence as it relates, but I guarantee that you do. You can apply this with really anything that you do in your life. So when we think about these things that we do, a lot of times our confidence gets built up over time for things we don't give ourselves credit for because we spend a lot of our time doing these things. And if we reflect back, we can think back to when we started and where we are now and think, wow, I do know a lot more about this too. There are people probably looking at you right now that you wouldn't realize it. And they think, blank is so confident in this, and I wish I could be that way, just the same way that you look at them. So when you think about it as being domain specific, this really kind of highlights the fact that everybody's going to be confident in some things, everybody's going to be unconfident in other things. Sometimes what we do is we're around people and we see them do, three different things, and we see these three things and think that they apply to every facet of their life. And so if they're confident in these three things I'm around them always doing, they must be confident in the hundreds of other things that I never see them do. But just like I gave the examples earlier with certain people that may see confident in these settings that otherwise would reflect and make you think that that spreads across the board, this just tends not to be true. And if anybody sits there and says, I'm confident with everything in my life, there's nothing I feel bad with, I got it, I would question if that's really confidence or more arrogance, because I have yet in my life to meet a person that is confident with everything. Now, one last thing I want to say is that tend to get a lot of pushback. People sitting there saying, okay, well, that's easy to say for certain things you have control over, right? If you think of it as a skill, yeah, you can improve on it. So if I really want to go out there and do it, there's some things I could change, but what about the things I can't change, right? Like, for example, maybe you're shorter than you want to be, right? And you feel like I'm not confident because I'm not tall. I'm not, taller or the same height as some of my peers and stuff. So because of the way I feel like that, I can't feel confident because I can't change it. Now, as far as I know, the only way that you can change something like that is where you're going to do that wild surgery where they go break your leg and put you back together and make you another 6 inches taller. Don't do that, by the way. It's wild to me that that's even a thing. But, right, so like when you think about this, you think, okay, there is no fix for this. You have to go to the extremes if you even want a chance at doing something like that. There's one word and one way to move forward and feel confident in regards like this, and that word is acceptance, right? And that's not meant to sound cookie cutter or very generic. It's just the truth, right? So if you're shorter than you want to be and you feel like, okay, well, like this is holding you back, there is really nothing you can do about that to change, right? And so the sooner that you accept who you are, what you look like, and where you are in life, the easier it is for other people to accept you. If you accept yourself, they accept you, you can move forward. And in the off chance that you still have this very small amount of people that are like, well, no, I don't accept you, or I don't like you, or whatever, that's a very small amount of people. And people that tend to be negative like that towards you, project these things on, typically it's like they're taking their lack of confidence and project it onto you to almost bring it down. That's why you hear that common saying, misery loves company. And so I'm not going to sit there and tell you, okay, it's easy, just ignore that. But when you understand where that comes from at your own time, when you're ready, it gets easier to move past that because you're willing to accept it yourself. Just like anything else in life, I would say that sometimes we have the luxury of being able to choose, and other times things in life choose us instead. All right. So not only asking yourself what it is you want to be confident in, but tag on there why. Right? Like, what happened? Where did this come from? Is this something you've always wanted to be confident in? Is something in your life changed that made you feel like, okay, I want to be confident in this, but I never thought about it before, or whatever reason? Or is this something that's coming from an external pressure? Right? And I'm not saying that sometimes the external pressures or things we hear from there can't be good or in good faith. But I think that any time in life you want to improve anything and move forward, and especially going from a place of feeling not confident to confident, it has to come from a level of internal or intrinsic motivation, because there's something within you that wants to feel that way and wants to make that change. And like, so just like I mentioned earlier, confidence is a skill, and it's not like a paved road, a nice smooth paved road you go on. It's like a bumpy road with some gravels. You can have some bumps, some setbacks, and some things that are a little difficult on there. Now, when you have a good, strong motivation for wanting to do that intrinsically, because there's something with you that wants to do that, not what other people are telling you to do, you're much more likely to stick on that road when it gets bumpy and when it gets tough. And just like I was giving the example earlier about, mystery shows or really anything else, right? Like, the more time and dedication you put into a craft, the more likely it is that you're going to get better, right? So it's not just you're born with confidence or you're not. It's a perceived skill and something that you can work on over time, given the right motivation for that. And sometimes we find ourselves being in positions where maybe we have a little bit more hurdles and things than people next to us. But what I would make the argument with is that if you look back throughout history, some of the most, perceivably confident people that you see in the public spotlight or anything else around you have probably been the people that have went through the most struggle. And so when I mentioned earlier, sometimes, we get to choose this and sometimes things choose us. without realizing it, the harder the situation, the more stress and the things that we go through in our life. I'm not saying it's always the best method, but a lot of times it puts us in positions where we have no choice but to kind of keep up with the times and maybe do something we wouldn't have otherwise taken upon to do ourselves. Right? So confidence comes through struggle. So if you're struggling right now, you feel like you're having a hard time, believe me, there is an amazing like light on the end of the tunnel that you can't even see yet. And if you just stick with whatever it is you're doing long enough, you will get to a point of feeling more confident, whether you realize you're making that transition or not. Okay, so just like I mentioned in the beginning, I want to talk to you about how I was not confident whatsoever growing up. And in some ways, I still am not in certain domains. But I want to give a story about, when I was younger and like some of the things I went through. I remember back in the day, and I'm going to date myself here a little bit, so me making fun of me, call me old. But back then, there was no, Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, none of these things. If you wanted to order any type of food, typically it was pizza. And my favorite place was Pizza Hut. Now, there was no online ordering. There was no website to go put information in. You had to like physically pick up a phone and call somebody to put your order in to do so. My mom used to be the one that would order this pizza. And whenever we got it as a treat. And one day she said, hey, like, I want you to go ahead and order this pizza. You should have seen my face. I was like shaking, so scared. I was like, I can't do this. Like, what if they ask me a question I'm not ready for? What if they every what if came into my head, and I was just so unconfident doing that. And at this point in my life, I was comfortable talking on the phone to, friends, family and things too. It wasn't a big deal. But when it came to speaking to a stranger, I was so unconfident in my ability to hold a conversation, even if it was just to order a very simple, just generic pepperoni pizza, and that's it. So I remember making that call, and my mom was standing there with me, but I was like shaking. I was so nervous. I got through it. And anytime I hit a snag of like, I don't know what to say and such too, I got through it. And I think I did this probably 3-4 different times. And maybe on the 5th time, I started to feel a little bit more confident in that too. And not ordering the pizza, but speaking to a stranger that I didn't know to ask for something. This is one example of this. I also used to be a person that would walk around and I couldn't make eye contact. I would stare at the ground everywhere I went, to the point where sometimes I would walk around the grocery store and walk into a cart or walk into a shelf because I was literally looking down so much. I had no perception of my surroundings because I just couldn't make eye contact with people. And not only this, I moved a lot, and every couple of years you'd pick up and move. And from that, like, I couldn't speak to peers. I couldn't speak to my teachers, staff, anybody. Right? I had zero social skills. I had zero ability to be able to talk to people or do these things that people look at me and they perceive me to have always had this, right? Like, if you meet me in person, people think that I can just go up there into a room and just talk to anybody I don't know, and it's easy for me. I don't know if it's ever easy, but you do things over time. And just like I've been saying that confidence is a skill that you learn, it's the same thing. And I also mentioned how sometimes we have the ability to choose these things and sometimes they choose us. Mine didn't really come from a place of being able to choose it. It was coming from a place of being in these situations, sometimes getting pushed from my parents and things too, but other times really kind of being in a situation that was really uncomfortable. And then what you realize is that over time, as you keep doing these things, it gets a little bit easier, right? So think about confidence as a skill you can develop. Really ask yourself what it is you want to be confident, and most importantly, ask yourself the why. There's no difference between me and you. I know that you can do this if you have the right reason for wanting to actually feel confident in a certain way of your life. So I hope this helped in some way. Don't doubt yourself. I don't doubt you. I don't have to know you to say that. I just really believe in our abilities as people to be able to do anything we put our mind to, and confidence being one of those things too. So I hope this helped. If you have any further questions or anything else you want to go ahead and run by me, please go ahead and drop that in the comments. I'm going to see you on the next one. Take care for now. Peace.